And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Strategic Command in the Cold Arms campaign. Well, Strategic Command World War I in the Cold Arms campaign as the Entente Powers. I think it's time we attack the Ottomans. We're gonna have you pull back to resupply. You're gonna pull back so that you don't get completely encircled. And yeah, I think with that we've actually just caused the Ottomans to surrender. Because we've taken a national morale objective. Granted, we're going to threaten a few more, but I think that's all they needed to finally crumple was one more objective falling. Just to make sure. We're gonna keep attacking for the turn. And then here we got 4 shells. Let's fully de-entrench these guys again. Send the attack. Not enough by itself. Got 6 shells, which are destined for that fortress. Oh, and this artillery does not have its guns upgraded, so it's not actually de-entrenching. A little bit of an issue. Okay. For that, we've taken Gallipoli. Okay, you've got 5 strikes. They've got only 4 entrenchments, so let's hit them. We don't have the range to recon that run. Let's plug up here. Take that locale. You can get there. Oops, nope, that's not the move I wanted. Get you there, so move you there, move you there. These aren't necessarily good trades, but I think they're trades that Austria-Hungary cannot take. Is why we're trying, or why we're doing them. Let's upgrade this remaining core with the infantry weapons. It's one of the reasons some of these attacks aren't going super well is we don't actually have infantry weapons on the infantry doing the attacks. You only got one ground cover, so lovely hit you. Probably completely destroy that one. Don't quite have enough to get rid of that Zeppelin. It's a little bit of a shame. Okay. I'll take the upgrade on... Oh, we moved you, so I can't take the upgrade. Fair enough. So I think this is the southern portion of the line. Middle portion here, we got artillery with 7 shells. Okay, let's soften up that Austro-Hungarian one if we can get rid of him. Ooh, pulled back into the rear, which is not quite what we wanted. I'm kind of afraid to destroy him rather than make him retreat, but... Okay, and we're going to disentrench you. So, we're going to start off recon bomber, recon. This is also a scenario where the heavy bomber makes sense, because it's a fortified town. Followed by pounding it relentlessly with the artillery. Königsberg has been captured. That plane has been destroyed. And then you're in the swamp, so we'll just take swings at the guy in the swamp. we go. So I think that is the Eastern Front. We're definitely inflicting casualties. We've got a national morale hit with Königsberg falling. And we're threatening to encircle, or actually encircling, a lot of Austro-Hungarian forces, or Habsburg forces, if you want to describe them that way. We got 8 shells here, so it's time to hit the fort here. No, we don't have 8, we got 6. So there's going to be a little bit of hard fighting for the town. We are going to start fighting for it, though. No, no one can occupy it. Oh, the cav can get up there. That's good. I think it's waiting the infantry or the artillery. So there we go. We've taken Trento. Another national morale hit to the Central Powers. I'm gonna risk a swing at that destroyer. Yeah, probably wasn't worth it. Take the swing at that destroyer. Might actually literally be able to destroy that destroyer in port. Ah. Oh, I still have the movement. We can get it. There we go. Okay, and we got the Western Front. I think the Navy Front we basically won on, at least for the moment. Tank here wants to upgrade. Really, we need more than 1 tank development, but 1 tank development is definitely a start. We've got 7 shells. Dump them into the Bavarian Corps. Oh, I should open up with Recon Run before we start dumping all the shells. Now the national morale hit. Michelle Mannerheim? Probably. Let's work the other line, other end up. There we got enough reconnaissance so that I can actually see where the ambushes would be, where the black thereof are. So let's recon you. de-entrenched you, and we'll de-entrench you. Yeah, I probably want you to shell Mannerheim if we're going to shell down here. I'm not sure if we're going to attack down here, or get them out of Mannerheim. Mannerheim might be a bridge too far in this area. Okay. You. You. Okay, we did manage to get the garrison in Mannerheim destroyed. Yeah, it's a slightly different question. Can I get anyone into Mannerheim? Well, you gotta go in there, okay. I gotta pull someone up probably to fill your spot in the line. There we go. I'm not gonna be greedy enough to take three to fours. Don't think I'm that desperate for attrition on the Germans. Okay, so that's the Western Front. Germans are having a bad day. We are about to give them 3 national morale hits all at the same time. Cologne, Koblenz, and Mannerheim are all falling this turn. And I think the German resistance here is becoming holier and holier. And we've broken through and actually hit one of the HQs, which it's never a good day. They're not cheap, so when you hit them, they hurt. National morale-wise and repair-wise. And then, yep, purchasing. We want to do whatever replacements that we need, so it's a core for the French. And the French can also pick up some more aircraft, so we'll do that. We'll take long-range heavy bombers, long-range naval bombers. Oh, I can't afford them for the long range. We'll hold off on the naval bombers then for the French. Get some anti-submarine bombers. The British. Another brand of recon bombers to the British. Italians are saving for artillery. Serbians are basically just repairing whatever damage they take. Is there any research I want to get into the Russians? It's been up to 115. A little late for armored warfare. It might be worth grabbing spying, although it's likely too late for that to really give us a good return. Yeah, and the other thing we can do is we can probably do a little bit of diplomacy. It's basically Denmark, and the Netherlands we're probably not going to be able to do enough because the other side's been doing some there, right? We got 10% there. Want to invest a couple chits? Let's invest, yeah, let's invest a couple as the British. The French have 3. Let's put 2 of the French ones in the Netherlands. The Russians have no open chits. Russian research. What do I need as the Russian research? Oh, no, the Russians can't spend anything. So at this point, the Russians, basically, it's troops, troops, all troops. Okay. Here we go. Let's cycle the turn and see how the national morale hits affect all the nations. Batum detachment suffers attritional losses. Okay. First Corps suffering attritional losses. Loss of grain affects hunger in Austria-Hungary. Italy celebrates the capture of Trento. German morale drops due to the fall of Königsberg. France celebrates the taking of Strasbourg. Fall of Cologne lowers German morale. Fall of Koblenz lowers German morale. Fall of Mannerheim lowers German morale. Fall of Strasbourg lowers German morale. Ottoman morale drops due to the fall of Gallipoli. Fall of Trento lowers Austro-Hungarian national morale. German morale is boosted by the use of under-circulated warfare. Ottoman morale falls due to the loss of Mon. USA protests the use of under-circulated warfare. Canada, UK, and Greece, UK lines are being raided. Entente naval units north of Scotland blockade imports to Germany. Entente units blockade imports to Germany in the North Sea. German national morale falls below 25%. Breakthrough in fighter development. Airships at level 2. Trench warfare max for the British. Breakthrough in long-range aircraft development for the French. Gas shell production hits 2 to Serbia. Logistics 2 for Serbia. Production level 3 for the Russians. Infantry weapons level 1 for the Americans. Logistics level 3 for the Americans. Here's the MPP breakdown. Austro-Hungary provides Konrad von Hutzendorf with the field command. Ooh, German tanks. Heavy bombers strike Italy. And the encircled unit there does successfully destroy one of the units encircling it. Doesn't actually apparently break out. We'll see if we get a movement later in the turn that gets it back into supply. May not be able to. Loss of grain from Galicia leads to hunger in Austria-Hungary. German authorities suppress a naval mutiny at Cuxhaven. Taunt raiders disrupting the Norwegian or Swedish-German supply line. Taunt naval units north of Scotland. They're blockading. Taunt naval units blockade imports into Germany in the North Sea. Ottoman Empire surrenders. Okay, Russian fighters deploy. Got more destroyers for the British deploying. And a new batch of recon bombers for the French deploying. And that's the state of affairs. The Ottomans are out! Central Power number 2. Gone. Get these guys to the rail network so they can leave. I wonder, I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. Is there any Ottoman partisans? No, so I don't even need to keep anyone down here to keep this garrisoned. Everyone turn around and focus on Austria-Hungary and the Germans. Okay. Lots of units probably want to do some degree of recovery, if they can. Overstrength you. I'm not going to bother the overstrengths. Of course, for whatever reason, there's a disconnect between the Ottoman rail and the Western rail, so I can't just show up and properly get to the Eastern Front in one go. Close a lot of the gap in one go, but not all of it. Can't quite get in strike range to that submarine. Or the carriers. Not quite. You got 6 entrenchments, so we'll take reconnaissance. Fire the 6 shells in there, and then we can begin the attack. I think that's a national morale objective. Oh no, Kharkov is the next one. Or Krakow. Krakow? Krakow. It's the next one there. We're moving towards and threatening Budapest. The defenses on this area in the front line is definitely starting to fall apart. Oh, and there's an Austro-Hungarian tank corps here. Oh, and if I remember correctly, the Serbians... Yeah, it's the Serbians. Can pick up the replacement detachment from the one they lost. We can take 2v1. I don't think that's good enough exchange. And then not doing any damage is not good enough exchange, so we're definitely not taking those swings. Here we go. Oh, unit destroyed. If I thought I got national morale back for taking Warsaw, we could just take the step into Warsaw, but I don't think we do. We got 3 shells. The entrench people need 6. So I think we're taking the opportunity here just to recover. So that's the eastern front. Southern front, we got 3 shells, which is not enough to de-entrench the guy in the mountains here. I was hoping I'd be able to get in that hex. Can anyone get in that hex? You can get in that hex. Not as much as I would have liked, but... Cover you, cover you. Let's upgrade you. Oh, 0-4, I'll take. I think that's a 0-4. At that point, you might as well do that swap already and get rid of it. Yeah, we're definitely benefiting from the fact that the enemy here really can't take much more attrition, where they're just running out of steam. Okay, the tank corps isn't in striking range of anything. Let's go through and grab the upgrades on the guys that aren't on the front. And then artillery-wise, we probably want to wait one more turn and do another devastating barrage. Although you've got 6 shells, we could... Oh, and the tank isn't in cover. Which is also bad for the tank. What are we getting against? Oh, granted, the tank's got pretty good readiness, and there's a tank. So I would probably want to task some shells with dealing with the tank, if we were to move against the tank. I might still move against Maze. Let's move against Maze. So, part of that, send in one of the recons, if we have a recon in range. You're in range... Oh, because the French have the long-range upgrade. That's fair. So, yeah, recon with you. And then we'll shell the tank with the shells here. We only need one to completely get rid of its ground cover, but at this point we might as well just sell it. No other possible targets in range. And the advance, I think, at this point is going to leave the artillery a little bit in the rear. And I still have enough to de-entrench. I don't have anyone to follow that attack up is kind of the problem there. We got like one swing. We could get 2 swings, okay. Let's soften you up a little bit with your artillery. Gonna force march you into the town there, just so the town doesn't fall. Don't want to return the town to the Germans after all. Yep, that's another national morale hit on the Germans. Not be surprised if the Germans go first, actually, at this point. Although that would almost certainly be due to the fact they came up and did the whole naval shebang. Which was not, from a national morale standpoint, a smart move. I would argue. Get you upgraded with airship development, get you more strike range. Same here. Hit the submarine! Immediately dives from attack. I'm like, wasn't expecting a submarine there. They weren't expecting us to find them there. Found the submarine again. Dives from attacking again. Oh, we hit a different submarine. It also is like, nope, dive. Okay, we find it again. We got a little bit of action against the subs. We put these guys in port so we can get their anti-submarine warfare upgraded before we send them back out again. And yeah, I think we're about to see a couple more morale hits on the Germans. I'm not sure if the Germans can actually take anymore. Germans are down to 7% before the national morale hits, 14% for the Austro-Hungarians. Of course, the Ottomans are out of the war. Research-wise, don't need to worry about America. Russia can spend up to 100 more. Got the ground attack investment. Can't do both heavy bombers, although I could start on one of them. We'll start on one of them. And the rest of that's going to have to go into probably units, which are going to be Russian. Okay, can't afford that unit. Don't quite have enough for the artillery after we had to heal up over the turn. But we will probably next time. Serbia. What would you want to research on Serbia? That infantry warfare. Get the 5th logistics going. Industry. Oh, and I've capped out. So we'll save the last 75 there. Aerial warfare is done on the French. Grab another. No, not down. Up. On production. We'll grab the mobility on the French. I suppose the French could also be saving up. They can't take it yet, but when they get Armored Warfare 4, which they are progressing, they're 10% into, they'll be able to get a second tank corps. Okay, we'll hold on to the rest of the French stuff. British. British are probably happy with what they've got. Unless I wanted to start Armored Warfare, but I don't think that's going to come online quick enough. Grab the Greek fighters and the Greek recon bomber. Okay. Let's cycle the turn and see how the national morale objectives hit the Germans. I think we only took one this turn. Loss of grain from Galicia leads to hunger in Austria-Hungary. Fall of Essen lowers German morale. German morale is affected by the defeat of the Ottoman Empire. That's another hit for them. Austro-Hungarian morale is affected by the defeat of the Ottoman Empire. Entente liberate Palestine and Syria. Disrupt Egypt UK convoy, Canada UK convoy, and USA UK convoy. Our blockade continues. UK develops fighter development level 3. Long range level 1. Logistics 5. Breakthrough on production for the French. Industry level 4 for the French. Multiple breakthroughs here, bringing us to artillery level 2 for the Russians. Entente major victory. So, national morale for the Germans has gone below 1%. And there we go. So we control a lot more of the map, a lot more of the resources, killed a lot more of the other side. National morale for our side is averaging 91%, whereas it is 10% for the Central Powers, which is at this point just Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungarian national morale is at 10%. They're at victory position of 20%, we're at 80%. And this be the state of affairs. So I was expecting it to take a little bit longer than that, but they collapsed a lot harder than I was expecting. Oh, well, no. Actually, the Austro-Hungarians also went. Yeah, okay. The Ottomans did it. Collapsed the Ottomans, took Austro-Hungary and Germany out of the war. They both surrendered in quick succession. And yeah, the situation was falling apart. Um, I was preparing for the war to go on longer, so we're getting guys on the rails here to get them shipped over to the Eastern Front to push harder there. And yeah, there was okay. They did have some reserves in the east, but yeah, they were just starting to fall apart. Um, we're coming around the side on Dusseldorf. Um, there's just exposed HQs out here with no troops in front of them. There's 3 HQs here, but barely any troops between us and them. We're starting to damage the Alps, and even on the, you can even see on the Serbian front that they're actually backing off, except for the 1 tank corps here, and we're encircling guys over here. So the situation was falling apart. This be the end for this run. Successful victory as the Entente Powers. Without having to bring America in off the sidelines, America was still not in the war. Although we can go take a look at where they were diplomatically. America's up to 39%. So the Americans were not in the war, and were quite quite far away from joining. When these guys defected or got liberated, did I actually get the ability to recruit for them? Palestine, yes, although they'd only give us a couple detachments and a cavalry corps. So just Palestine, okay. Syria doesn't give anything. Or if it does, it must give it to directly to the French. But yeah, this is the state of affairs. The war is over. We can go look at the loss report. So at the end of the war, 48% of all losses were German. 16% were Austro-Hungarian. 11% were Ottomans. 9% was the UK, and most of the UK ones were boats. 8% were French, which would have been mostly land forces of the French. 0%, because it rounds down in this case, is Italian, because the Italians lost 1 guy. The Serbians lost 2% of the forces, and 5% for the Russians. And here is the final loss ratios. 63 Germans, 20 Austro-Hungarian, and 12 Ottoman infantry corps. A bunch of detachments, and a bunch of German ships, to be fair. There was a sizable naval exchange at some point between the British and the Germans. So this is the national morale for the British. We kept them reasonably high. They ended at 87%. We kept the French reasonably high. They ended at 90%. Kept the Italians reasonably high. They ended at 98%. I think they got a boost from taking Trento. Here's the Serbians, who ended at 80%. Romania joining the war definitely boosted them. Here's the Russians. Again, Romania is a boost there. So they're up to 91%. America didn't enter. There is the Germans. They did go down to 0%, which is why we got major victory. There is the Austro-Hungarians, which went down to 0% because I kind of underestimated how effective destroying the Ottomans would be on deleting national morale for these two. So the fall of the Ottomans very quickly just convinced all these guys, nope, it's time. And then that's the Ottomans going. The Ottomans actually hit 0, I think basically hit 0 twice. So we got the decision, did we want to offer an armistice to them? And we said no. And then we forced them to surrender, or forced them to surrender anyway from the national morale going down. And that basically triggered these guys to both surrender. I think technically at this point we'd be giving the same decision we got with the Ottomans for the Austro-Hungarians. The fact that the Germans have already surrendered is why we're not being presented with an option. I was planning on also saying no to that, which would have kept the Austrians in the war a little bit longer. Convoys. The rating was actually starting to pick up again at the end, so the convoys were going down a little bit for the British. French convoys weren't being affected. Italians weren't being affected. Serbians wasn't being affected, although we turned it down a bit because we didn't need it as much for Serbia. We turned it off to going to Russia. when we didn't need any more. The Americans send, not receive. There's the German ones, which we were chipping away at. We did diplomacy to pull Norway off. We were in the process of doing diplomacy to pull Sweden off and Denmark off, which would have dragged it down even more. And then we can't interdict the Austro-Hungarian and the Ottomans because they have to go through Serbia. Never received any because we didn't lose Serbia. Serbia stayed intact. There's the raider losses. I don't think we're going to have any raider losses as the Entente because we didn't have any raiders doing raiding. Strategic bombing. We got bombed a little bit. Oh no, this is my airships bombing. I didn't usually use the airships for bombing. Had a little bit with the heavy bomber as the Russians. They did some bombing of us. Oh no, we did we shot. We had some of our bombers shot at there. That's what that was. Okay. Research. Just sort of 2,000 for them. Just over 3,000 for them. Getting close to 4,000 there. We spent about 1,000 with Americans. Almost as much with with the Russians as the Germans did. The Serbians are doing like twice, or doing more than the Ottomans. Well, the Italians don't do very much. So the Italians, yeah, didn't do very much research. And then the French did a lot of research, and the British did a lot of research. Plunder. Apparently our side doesn't, well, except for the Russians, didn't do any plunder. This was Bulgaria surrendering. So we didn't get any plunder from plundering the Ottoman Empire. Probably because they hit national morale of 0 and not we occupied any capitals or anything. And then there's our MPPs. You can see that we're collecting more than we're losing, which is probably one of the reasons we're winning. Collecting more than we're losing. 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 Americans obviously can't lose anything because they never entered the war. Whereas on the other side, we're doing more damage than they're collecting. Doing more damage than they're collecting. Doing more damage than they're collecting. And that be the run. So we ended on May 19th, 1917. So over a year before the war would normally historically end. I'll go ahead and put in a quick save here. So this was Entente Power stream final here. So this one we finished in May. Can I load from here easily? No. Let me go load the other one up and we can see what day we finished on. So it was May 19th for the Entente. And then in the previous run we finished, I think it was still 1917, so we didn't get like a whole year early. So it was October. So yeah, there's definitely an argument that the Entente is assuming you can keep the Russians in the war, because the Russians are definitely the vulnerable of the three majors, and even the Italians to some degree maybe a little bit vulnerable, as you can see with the amount of resources we're able to generate with them. The Entente's probably the easier side to play, although you were definitely on the defensive at the beginning of the game, right? Let's go back to the other game. Definitely on the defensive on the beginning of the game. And then that makes sense because the Entente is the side that historically wins. And I think maybe it is up for debate whether it is a major victory or a minor victory historically for the Entente. Because I think, let me bring up the victory conditions here quickly. 11th of November. I think the 11th of November is the historical date when the ceasefire is agreed to. So you could make an argument that the ceasefire being agreed to is national morale of the Germans going below 1%. Of course, at the same time, from the Entente perspective, they have the Entente minor victory. So the Entente historically definitely won. What's debatable whether it's the major victory or the minor victory that happened at that point, as I think how you would describe that. So maybe not surprising that if you know what you're doing against the AI, it's a little bit easier to win from the side that historically won. Although we did win probably a little harder than historically happened. The Russians were not still in the war. The Russians didn't take over a large chunk of the Ottoman Empire. And I think historically the Greeks were in the process of trying to take some more of the Ottoman Empire at the end of the war as well. That historically, I think, didn't really work out for the Greeks. As the rising Turkey in Angora, I think it was Angora, was able to throw the Greeks basically out of Turkey. Although I think that would result in them having a little bit less. I forget where the border is. The Greek border is in this case, IRL. But so the borders here aren't quite exactly where they would be in a situation where I think the Entente heavily won, because there'd be a little bit more border exchange here with the Greeks. And obviously this is before the Treaty of Versailles for the Germans and the Austrian-Hungarian equivalent, which is why we have obviously no Yugoslavia here. Because definitely in the situation when the Serbians win the war, there's Yugoslavia. The Serbians historically, while being on the Entente, which is the winning side, also lost. Historically, the Austro-Hungarians do blow through, with German help, the Serbians to link up with Bulgaria and the Ottoman Empire. Although during the sort of closing phases of the war, the first people to surrender are the Bulgarians. The Bulgarians actually negotiate a surrender. I think in this game, the Bulgarians will never negotiate a surrender, so you have to actually get them to surrender by occupying their capitals. IRL, the Bulgarians negotiate a surrender. And then because the Entente powers at that point are allowed to come up here and occupy the rail line because of that peace deal, that breaks the supply between the Ottoman Empire and Austro-Hungary, which then later causes the Ottomans to sue for their ceasefire, which would then lead to the Greek sort of Turkey war, which would see the fall of the Ottoman Empire. As basically Republican Turkey goes, yeah, we're not just giving the Greeks that stuff, while the old Sultan was still trying to negotiate some sort of peace. Pretty ineffectually negotiating a peace, to be fair, which is why we end up with Republican Turkey. And yeah, this is the end of the run. This isn't going to be the end of the stream, because I'm going to swap games here. I'm going to go play a different game. But if you're watching on YouTube, this is obviously where this run ends. You can expect there to be a different game up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, actually, I think if you're watching on Twitch, feel free to tune back in after I go get a cup of tea. I'm going to go and bring the stream down between games, and I'll get the description updated for the new game. I think we're going to swap over to... It's still going to be a turn-based war game, but it's not going to be Strategic Command. I think we're going to go flop over to... I'm trying to remember what the game's called. It's a World War II game. Yeah, a moment when you were thinking, you got a very clear picture of what you were going to play earlier today, and you can't find it in your Steam library. Panzer Corps. So we're going to go play, probably play Panzer Corps after the tea break. So if you're watching on YouTube, the part up tomorrow will probably be Panzer Corps 2. We'll go probably start a run of Panzer Corps 2 after the tea break, so it'll be a part for you tomorrow if you're watching on YouTube. And I suppose for YouTube, tomorrow should be Christmas. So if you're not interested in Panzer Corps 2, but you were enjoying this, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. This is probably the part that's going up Christmas Eve, so the day before Christmas. And if you're watching on Twitch, obviously we're gonna keep playing, but we're gonna play a different game after the break. So the stream will continue while Well, the stream will start up again as soon as I am back with the cup of tea. So we're going to take a break. So with that, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part. And bye for now.